we are back, and it is episode number 9 of the Shutdown Inning Podcast, and it is the middle of December. Steven Rissotto here with Tylor Hall. Tyler, what are you up to nowadays? How you doing?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, good to be here with you, Steven. If I sound a little off, I'm just fighting through the winter, dude, with a little guy in preschool.
Yeah, well,
But
so just know that the people listening probably think it's like a different person. So no, this is Tyler.
yeah, this
Yeah,
for this episode, this is Tyler's voice. But we had to shut it down. We can't break the streak, but yeah, just getting through the holidays, man. You know, it's always fun. Got my little dude Hunter, who's like learning more about Christmas and the season, and we saw Santa last night. Still a little scared of the big man, but he was able to get out what he wanted. He wants a trash truck and a pillow. So not a whole lot to deliver, but I'm sure he'll be happy next week. I guarantee you that.
yeah. No, Hunter's gonna live it up, and this Santa visit, like, was it like full on tears? Was it just like a frightening look on his face? I mean, take us through that.
Nah, he was happy like to go. He was like, see Santa, see Santa. We got there. One of us got in line and we traded off a little bit so we could run around with him while one of us waited. And then once we got up to like third or fourth in line, and he realized like, uh-oh, like there he is, and I'm next, or I'm coming up. He kind of just like shut down. He kind of curled up in my wife's arms, and then we went up there, and luckily they had like a double bench, so like there's room for a parent to sit next to Santa. And so he just curled up with her and was just like nestled, not even looking at Santa. And then the Santa fairy tale town in Sacramento, he's a boss. He nailed it. He got Hunter to warm up to him. And I convinced him to give Santa a high five and a fist bump. And then after that, you know, he never sat on his lap, but he sat with mom and told Santa what he wanted and smiled and had a good time from there. So it was cool.
There you go. Yeah, starting off the holiday season right. Glad Hunter could experience that visit to Santa. Speaking of Santa, Giants fans got a Christmas present pretty early since we recorded, and
Yeah.
like I think we are the like the example of people that do podcasts like a day or two too early, because like we like the Judge thing, we had to wait on that for a little bit, and then the Carlos Correa signing happened. Carlos Correa signing with the Giants, 13 years, 350 million. And in the last episode, like we were talking that he was one of the big remaining free agents, and like right after that happened, the Giants signed him to a contract on Tuesday night. So I mean, where were you when you heard this? I guess that's the question that everybody's asking each other.
Yeah, I mean, basically 24 hours after we recorded, I think, you know, a few hours after we released the episode, Correa signed. You know, obviously we talk all baseball here on Shutdown Inning, but you know, Steven and I are going to be, you know, having a closer eye on the Giants. But yeah, I was on watching TV with my wife, and I was in a group chat with you, Steven, and I saw one of our Doug Hayes just say OMG, OMG, 13/350. And I was like, wait, what's going on? And then I knew something was up. So I went to like Bleacher Report, and Jeff Passan, you know, broke the news, which made me feel a lot better that it wasn't John Heyman. And yeah, so you know, for you know about an hour and a half after that, I was just like trying to pay attention to what I was watching with my wife, but also like thinking about this deal and watching the reactions. Where were you? I think you were actually on Spaces, right?
Yeah, me and our good friend and listener to the show, Eric Nathanson, we were on Twitter Spaces, and we were on there like 15 minutes before. We were talking about, Ross Stripling signing with the Giants, because that was Ross Stripling's day. It was supposed to be his day. He's like, yes, I got a day where all the Bay Area media attention's on me. And then like boom, Carlos Correa signs, and I looked at the
Well, I mean, when
notification
you
come up, and I was like, oh my, I didn't say, oh my God. I just said Correa, Giants, 350, 13 years. He's signing. The Giants got their guy. So that was it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you sign Ross Stripling, that sends a message to the rest of baseball, and that's how you get a Carlos Correa. But no, but on our episode last week, we recorded last Monday night, and I had basically said on there that if the Giants don't get Correa, this offseason is basically a fail for them, because everyone's looked at this offseason for the Giants for a long time. Obviously, they didn't get Judge. It was huge for them to get a guy like Correa who can help, show that a big bat doesn't need to worry about signing in San Francisco, and also hopefully attract future bats to come here. And so I think, uh, and you could even argue that for what the Giants needed and for the durations of the contract, with Judge being a few years older than Correa, and the annual values where Judge is at like 40, Correa is at about 26 and a half or 27 ish, I think, like this signing could be better than a 9.360 for Judge. So, time will tell on that, but I do think that, the Giants kind of salvaged an offseason where it could have turned really sour really quick. If they went into next season off of this offseason that everyone was looking forward to, and they said, hey guys, we got Haniger, Manea, and Stripling, that's not gonna excite a lot of people. But I think those guys on top of a Correa signing, this could easily be a playoff team, and then we'll see who they add around Correa. I don't think they're done yet necessarily, but obviously huge. I mean, 13 years. How many other 13-year deals have there been in baseball history? Was the Stan deal 13 years originally?
I think the Harper deal's up there, right? But I can't remember, but there's been Tatis is definitely up there, I think. I don't know what Wander Franco got. There's been a few, but I think. But no, the Correa one, I mean, it, like, honestly, you hit the nail on the head when you said this may have saved the Giants offseason from being a total disappointment. But now, now that we're looking at it, the Stripling and the Haniger moves and the Manaya move, it's like, okay, that makes sense now. Like, it complements the Correa move so much. And is Correa the aircraft carrier? And I hate that term so much because I think it's such a self-centered term in baseball talk. But is Correa the aircraft carrier that Aaron Judge is in terms of popularity, production, all of that? No, but he's still an outstanding shortstop. He's an outstanding player. He's played on winning teams before. He's a champion. He's a guy with a winning mentality. He's still young enough to where you could somewhat build around him. And I think that's so important. And he's a guy that's going to be there for 13 years, an impact player for 13 years. And like, I know a lot of people are so caught up in the years and how 13 years could be egregious. And I understand that completely. Like, I'm not gonna go after someone for thinking that's too long, because it is a long time. And we're all saying how old we're going to be when it ends. But think of it this way. Like, with the amount of guys changing teams, a 13-year deal with no opt-out, no trade clause, this guy is going to, be a San Francisco Giant by the end of it. Like, Houston's going to be in the rearview mirror. Minnesota sure as heck is going to be in the rearview mirror. And Correa's on the Hall of Fame path. And if he gets in, he's going in with the Giants hat. So I think that's a silver lining.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a couple things. I was on Coffee in the Cove with Eric that we mentioned earlier, yesterday, and a couple things I mentioned was, the Zips projections. And again, I do want to preface that by it is a projection. It's, time has to pass and it has to become reality. But of every active shortstop in baseball, Correa is predicted to have best career. So, you're talking your Trey Turners, your Tatises, your Francos, and Correa is projected to be at the top of that list out of all these guys who are currently active, your Xander Bogaerts. And so, if he performs to those projections and he has 13 years of that in an orange and black uniform, he's going in as a Giant. So, I mean, that's huge. And also, a lot of people have said that, he's not a good leader. He's not a good teammate. And that's just furthest from the truth. Yesterday I compared him to Draymond Green. He's like one of those guys where if he's not on your team, you hate him. But if he's on your team, or if he's in your clubhouse or your locker room, you love the guy. I haven't really seen a bad word said about him from teammates, from his teammates in Houston or his teammates in Minnesota. Everyone has seemed to love the guy. He's even taken a few young guys under his wing. And so, especially for a guy that you're going to have for 13 years, where he might not be a superstar for all 13 of those, but if he's able to mentor and help, bring up young guys in the organization for 13 years, that's how you bring value for 13 years. It's not all going to be on the stat line.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that Correa, his value also helps the Giants with defense. Like the Giants were the worst defensive team in baseball last year. And, you and I have watched enough games to where we can point out, I don't even think we have enough fingers on our hands to point out how many times the Giants could have won a 2-run or 1-run game, but they threw a ball away in the third or fourth inning, something of that capacity. There's one road trip where they went to Atlanta, and it just like every game could have been won. And I digress, but there's been a few games like that. And Correa, like adding him, an above average shortstop to shortstop, and then move Brandon Crawford. I don't know where he's moving. It's not, the Giants declined to say so far. But wherever he moves, I mean, you have the two of them, on the field, and Crawford, I imagine, is going to be playing a lot somewhere else. So you automatically improve
I feel like
defense.
it's got to be third.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so. Like it's got to be third. Like you don't want to waste Crawford's arm moving him to second. He's used to playing at least on the left side of the infield.
Mm-hmm.
Like the shift is quote unquote dead, but you can still play Correa basically up the middle for lefties and still have Crawford basically playing at shortstop. So yeah. I just think that's the natural transition for him. And, I'm not surprised so far. He's been a pro's pro about it and be like, yeah, I wasn't fully in on the loop, but, I think he takes a lot of pride in, growing up a Giants fan, being a career long Giant. And so he, and I think he knows that like a guy like Correa is going to give him the best chance to win, this year and in the future if he stays with the club. So.
And I can't blame him, like, if he's in any way, shape, or form, like, shaken by this. Like, Brandon Crawford has every right to be a little shaken, a little, I wouldn't say upset or pissed, because, at the end of the day, you're adding a really awesome player to your team. But, like, he acknowledged that, yeah, it's going to take some getting used to. And, if people view that as any sort of, if people view his hesitation or, reluctancy as any sort of like, oh, he's not buying in, that's just reading Brandon Crawford wrong. Like, we've known him long enough to know where, he's a team player. But no, I do agree. I think third base is probably a better fit, and they may try something like you mentioned that's pretty creative with the shift, or with no shift, I should say, where you have two rangy guys on the left side. But I think second, like that kind of popped into my head because of no shift. Because like I think I heard somewhere, I think Pavlovich might have said it, like you're eliminating any chance Wilmer Flores plays another inning at second base. Like there's no way that happens. So second, but you have Estrada there who had a good year. So but I don't think there's any doubt that Crawford would not make a big deal out of this. I mean, I think I mentioned this on a different podcast, but if anything, Crawford and Correa, like their wives are going to become friends. They're going to go to like Top Golf or something, because Crawford's kind of that guy that befriends everybody. So that wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. I'm sure on an individual level, it's got to sting a little bit at least, but he's always been a team guy, and if you're a team guy and you're not stoked about a Carlos Correa joining your team, then you're not really a team guy.
Yeah. And it's funny because
I think he gets it.
Yeah, he gets it. And it's funny because the NL West was once a division with Seager at shortstop and Trey Turner at shortstop after him, and Tatis at shortstop, and even like going way back, Troy Tulowitzki at shortstop. And now the Giants have the best shortstop in the game. Or not the best shortstop in the game, but now they have the best shortstop in the division. So the tables have turned a little bit.
Yeah. How the turntables.
Yes, how the turntables.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously that was a big signing out here on the West Coast where we are, and that kind of left one guy left on the market, in the top 15 or 20, and that got wrapped up yesterday when Dansby Swanson signed with the Chicago Cubs. I think it was 7 years and 170, 180 range. What was your reaction to that signing and kind of bringing an end to the big splashes of the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's at one point during the winter, especially right after Bogart signed, like the talk was, okay, Swanson's going to get overpaid completely. But I think that this is the right deal for him. I think the Cubs nailed it. I think, obviously you overpay on every free agent, but the Cubs, this is where, this is what he should have gotten. He got, like you mentioned, 7 years in the 170 to 180 range. I can't remember what the exact number was, but he's one thing about this is that it could end up being a big bargain because Dansby Swanson has like trended upwards as he's gotten older, and he's gotten better and better and better. And like if his offense stays at where it is now, I mean, boom, like this is automatically a bargain. So I think that's what they're betting on. And plus, I know he's got his wife is like a soccer player in Chicago, I think I read.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a cool story. And I didn't think the Cubs would be on a big shortstop the way they were this off season, but it's good for them to spend money because they can't be acting like the Brewers. But yeah, no, I will say if his offense stays, it will be looked at as a bargain.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised after what Trey Turner got 11, Bogarts got 11, Correa got 13,
Yeah.
and then you get Swanson signing for 7. So I mean, as a Cubs fan too, you got to be kind of stoked that, like you said, he has been trending up, and your commitment's only 7 years. So I think he'll be like 35 or 36 when his contract's up. So, hard to be upset on that deal. Worst case, you get one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball. And, everyone's offensive numbers usually take to, a nice little bump up in the summer when you're hitting at Wrigley Field half the time. Wrigley Field's a nice place to be a professional hitter. So, yeah, I think this could be a great bargain for the Cubs. And, him and his wife can be Mr. and Mrs. Chicago for the next 7 years.
Yeah. And Nico Horner is his double play partner now. And Nico Horner was like one of the best shortstops defensively last year. And like moving him to second, I mean, you have the best up the middle, shortstop second base combo defensively in baseball, I think. And I think Jeff Passan, mentioned that too. But yeah, no, I like the move a lot. Where do you think this leaves LA? Like, because I've been wondering about the Dodgers this entire offseason. Obviously, we're going to get to them in just a second. But in terms of like shortstops, like they missed out on all of them. I don't know how hard they were in on Swanson, but like they let Corey Seager walk and now they let Turner walk. Like, I don't know what the route is there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. And, as a Giants fan, it kind of scares me with how quiet the Dodgers have been this offseason. Because I'm just
Dun,
like,
dun, dun,
okay,
dun, dun,
they're
dun, dun,
doing
dun, 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 dun,
something.
dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. It's like, where are they? When are they going to pop up and just blow everybody's minds? Um, got Steven doing the shark for those not looking.
I'm in the
But
Bay too.
right. But yeah, I mean, they do have a really strong farm system, so maybe they're looking going to go trade around and try to bring someone over. I mean, they're still, they lost out. They're obviously going to downgrade at shortstop this year, but you still have a Betts and a Smith and a Freeman. And so, I mean, they're obviously still going to be a force to be reckoned with, but it does scare me that they didn't really make a big splash this offseason. It really makes me think that, they could have done this, probably made a splash this offseason and still do this, but I think they're going to throw stupid money at Shohei Ohtani next year. That's what makes me think is going to happen after not really going after anybody this year.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And like we're gonna get to in just a sec, but like third base just opened up there too. And like I don't know what their farm system looks like. I think you're right. I think it is still very strong. I wouldn't imagine anything otherwise. But like, does this put them in the sweepstakes to acquire like a Rafael Devers, like a year ahead of his free agency and stick him at third, and then like he's your guy that gets extended at third base? And there's some questions about Devers' defense, but like that would be that. I mean, you mentioned how they're too quiet, and I agree with you. That would be like the icing on the cake, just to add another like big time offensive unit to their infield
Yeah.
to go with Freeman, and obviously Betts in the lineup too, and Will Smith and those guys. But I mean, that would not shock me if they pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, I just Googled really quickly like farm system rankings, and I saw like 3 or 4 different rankings, and they're in the top 3 in every one of
Of
those.
course.
On one of them, they're 1, couple of them, they're 2, one of them, they're 3. So, and yeah, so it's scary as a Giants fan. I also see like that's kind of what Farhan's trying to build for the Giants too. But like, yeah, I mean, they have the bullets and the money to go acquire whoever they want. So
Yeah. And everybody's, I do think like I do agree with the realm where, prospects are overrated. I think 100% they're overrated. Most of them do not end up being what they're expected to be. I think we could all agree on that. But when you have a great farm system, I think it maximizes the chances of one of those guys coming out like very strong. So anytime you have a good farm
yeah,
system, it's such an added bonus. Also, like, in this situation where they, may or may not, based on Steven Risotto's speculation about Rafael Devers being a fit. But it especially helps contending teams in situations like these when you need a piece to get you over the hump, or maybe they wait until like the deadline and get Devers or something, and he
yeah.
comes at a cheaper price. I don't know, but that was just a thought.
I
Devers
mean,
I
yeah, the
think should be
Dodgers,
available.
yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are going to be in the playoff hunt. They're probably going to be worst case, like second place in the NL West at the trade deadline, if not first place. So they can wait and just see how their season goes, where they need to upgrade. They're coming off 111 wins, which is ridiculous. So I mean, they can be patient, and they've earned that. And I agree with you as far as having a farm system and having top prospects. Trading prospects who you hope someday will be great big league talent for all established big league talent is a no-brainer to me. Obviously, years of control come into play, and like when's the guy you're getting becoming a free agent, and so on. But except for maybe each team probably has like 1 or 2 guys that they're so high on where they're almost quote unquote untouchable. Like
Yeah.
trade these guys who you hope someday can be a Rafael Devers for a Rafael Devers. Like,
Yeah. And then
yeah.
I think my main point on that is like, it's okay to like say prospects overrated, because we all think that, prospects are overrated. Most of them don't pan out. But saying that does not excuse a bad farm system, right? Like there's no excuse
Yeah.
for a bad farm system. Like that's just such a lapse in scouting and development. And anytime you have a bad farm system, especially the teams that have been bad for like a few years, like the Giants, like that 107, win year kind of mess with their heads in terms of like future
Yeah.
blueprints for building a roster. They thought they could bring all those guys back, and it's like they got too happy with that.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, I feel like it gave fans an unrealistic expectation, and then I
true.
think it just gave the team the justification to bring those guys back and not necessarily go spend a bunch of money. Like, hey, we won 107 games with these guys, but I think Farhan and Kapler knew that they had basically a best case scenario in 21, and then in 22 they saw almost the opposite.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So it's okay, I think, to say like, prospects are overrated, but again, like I said, it does not excuse your team from having a bad system. And it goes vice versa too. Like you could say, oh, we need to hang on to these prospects, right? Um, and then you look and like your prospect list is, very thin. And
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm going on a tangent here that I don't even understand. But speaking of the Dodgers, one of their like I mean, he had to be the longest tenured.
Great transition.
Yeah, great transition. Uh, he had to have been one of the longest tenured Dodgers. I'd have to look at that. Besides Kershaw
Probably
and
Kershaw, yeah.
um, you
Probably
know,
Kershaw.
It might just be him. Might just be him.
But
Bellinger's
yeah, I mean,
gone.
essentially the Dodgers and the Red Sox made a trade today, more or less.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. JD Martinez signing to basically become DH for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Justin Turner, the longtime, Dodger, signing to go back to the East Coast and become a Boston Red Sox. Yeah, I mean, both of those guys are a little up there. I mean, I think Justin Turner's 38, which is, if you ask me, is still very young 38. But as a 38-year-old myself, but I mean, if they can stay healthy, I think they could both help the clubs they're joining. I don't know. I both those guys, I don't know, they've just been around so long that neither of them really move the needle for me much. Steven, how about you? I mean, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these guys, but
Yeah, JD
what's
is
your reaction to
yeah.
their signings?
JD, I think, is still very much like an offensive threat. Like I still think, not looking at not having the numbers in front of me, but he is still a presence in the box. And he's a guy that could, put one out of the ballpark and at any given point. I think, being a DH, in the National League, and without any worry of him ever, putting on a glove and playing the outfield, he's still a well
Mhm.
above average offensive player, I think. And I think he's going to fit well with this Dodger team. In the past, he's been asked to carry lineups, especially some of the mediocre Boston teams of the last few years. And here, like, he doesn't really need to do that. I mean, he could kind of just hide a little bit in the bottom of the order, or not bottom, but, kind of middle of the order, 4, 5, 6. He doesn't need to carry the freight the way he once did with a few different lineups. So I think that's a positive in that
Yeah.
regard. And I think, again, we mentioned bargain with what Swanson's deal could be. There's no such thing as a bad 1 year deal, especially 11 million for a guy of his caliber. So no, I think he's still scary. As for Turner, it's cool because I'm looking at the contract of Ken Rosenthal just reported that um, Turner's going to get 12 million this year. No, sorry, 15 million this year, and then 7.7 million in 2024 if he exercises the player option. So like everybody's saying, why don't they backload these, or why don't they front load these deals? And like the Red Sox kind of did. So like that's one of the first examples
Yeah.
of front loading. Granted, not a lot, not a big front load, $8 million or whatever it was, but
I
still,
mean, it's double.
yeah, team front loading a deal. So that's cool to see. I don't know where he fits though in that team. I am confused by that entire team.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might try to pick up first base a little bit, especially with
Yeah.
them dumping Hosmer the other day. So maybe a first base slash DH slash whenever Devers needs a rest. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I can think of. I don't know where else he would make sense for them.
I thought he still played
Yeah,
a really good third base, if I wasn't mistaken, but could be wrong on that.
yeah. I mean, maybe they DH Devers because I know his defense has kind
Yeah.
of slipped a little bit. So maybe they almost, I don't know if it counts as platooning if one of them's DHing and one of them's in the field, but maybe to keep their legs fresh, they, almost alternate who's playing the hot corner each night and who's DHing. That could be an option too.
Yeah. And I'm reading the report here, and Turner had a lot of suitors too. Marlins, Diamondbacks, Twins, Dodgers. They were the other teams involved. So, again, another guy that could still hit. And just I don't know how many Dodger fans we have. Probably not a ton, but like this guy, I honestly believe that like all those good Dodger teams of the 2010s and even the early 2020s, like he was the heart and soul. I think a lot of those teams. Like he was scary in a lot of ways, but he was never, I felt like, the one guy that is like the star on the team, but he always like kind of seemed like a guy that would be a heart and soul in the clubhouse. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, like maybe he's not the biggest production on the field, but he's kind of like the motor that keeps the engine going behind the scenes and kind of the glue of the team, I think you could say. Like I could see people having that feeling about him for sure.
yeah. And this seems like it's going to be it for him, probably. Maybe he gets another 1 year deal after this or something like that, that takes him into 39, 40 seasons. But
We'll
like
see. I mean, I think that front load was also it's a player option for next
mhm,
year for 24. So he could
yeah.
take his 15 this year, opt out, and go, maybe re-sign with Boston, but he could take his 15 this year and then become a free agent next offseason too.
And
So
he's got some incentives in there too. So he can unlock a series, according to MLB trade rumors, a series of $200,000 bonuses if he reaches at least 480 plate appearances. So I think what they mean by series is that like 480 you get a bonus, then like maybe like
like every
520
20
bonus.
or
Yeah.
yeah, every like
So
40 after that. Yeah.
I like incentive contracts. Obviously 200 grand in that deal is not much, but I think incentives should be a lot higher in my opinion, but I don't think the players association would like that very much because they're all about the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
But I was gonna mention one more thing. Yeah, no, Turner, yeah, heart and soul of that team, I believe, and his career is actually really cool. I know Giants fans hate him, but like if you look at his career, released by the Mets and like changed his swing, and he was the first guy to like, work with an independent hitting coach and change his swing and, embrace the launch angle, kind of swing. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know what they're exactly called, launch angle swing, whatever. But yeah, Turner
Yeah,
was
to
the
kind
one
of
guy.
embrace, like independent hitting coaches and analytics into their approach kind of thing.
Kind
Is
of,
that
yeah,
kind
a
of,
little bit. So
yeah.
Justin Turner goes to Boston. JD Martinez goes to Chavez Ravine. Um, about a half an hour in here. I guess we could go over some favorite. We wanted to talk because obviously this is going to be our last episode before Christmas, and obviously everybody's family has some kind of holiday tradition, whether they celebrate Christmas, whether they don't, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it may be. Tyler, do you have any like family traditions or things that you've done for Christmas or any other holiday throughout your life, I guess this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I got together with my wife, a little like 5 or 6 years ago, it's a little past now. We've already done it this year, but every year, the Thanksgiving, the weekend after Thanksgiving, we go pick up our tree and then we decorate it together and watch Home Alone 1 and order pizza and decorate the tree together while we do that. So that's been near and dear to my heart for a few years now. There's a few movies we watch every year. On top of Home Alone, we always watch Christmas Vacation, which is just one of my favorite comedies, like of all time. Not even just Christmas movies. Like I laugh my ass off every time I watch that movie. And then getting to family in the actual like day or days of Christmas. We always do. I have a big extended family up here in Sacramento, so we do a big extended family gathering on Christmas Eve, and then we kind of break off into our immediate families for Christmas Day. But so kind of having within those 2 days, getting to see everybody in the family more or less, and then being able to spend it with the ones you're closest to on the day has always been really awesome. And now that I have a little guy, Hunter, that we talked about a little bit earlier, being able to watch him every kind of, so at this age especially, kind of every year he's kind of learned a little bit more and kind of understood more. Like this year he learned like, oh, that guy is Santa Claus, and we decorate the outside of our house so he knows to stop here. And then just getting to experience that with him is an awesome tradition that I'm looking forward to for a lot of years to come. How
Yeah,
about you, Steven?
no, that's really cool. And I used to like really look forward to holidays, and I used to not be able to sleep the day before like um Thanksgiving and Christmas and Halloween. And now it's like I don't want to say it's wearing off. I still get really excited for the holidays, but um I don't know. I feel like I've become more of like I don't know, maybe it's like phasing into the adulthood a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm 20 years old. I've been a certified adult for a few years now. Um, Tyler, no. And yeah, but it's I think definitely I'm not like not numb to it anymore, but I still get excited, but just in kind of a different way. And the traditions that we have in my family, Christmas Eve we spend it usually at my grandma's house, and she lives in the South Bay. And that's like you mentioned, extended family. Like my mom's aunt and uncles come there, and it's cool to hang
Mm.
out with them, and they're all like, cool sports fans and stuff, and like Joe Montana, blah, and they're like old time sports. So it's fun listening to stories, and um, yeah, I get to hang out with my cousins. That's always a treat. And then Christmas Day, we host usually, and kind of the same group comes down, so we see them back to back days, and um I don't know. It's cool to have company. Like I feel like, when I get a house of my own one day, I'm gonna have a lot of company
Yeah.
because company, it's cool to have people around and to share meals and all that. So no, very excited. And I like the
Yeah.
cold weather too. Like I don't know about you, but the cold weather, as much as I like summer, it's my favorite season. There's something about bundling up and like getting yourself in blankets and long pajamas and enjoying kind of the cold weather. So I like this time of year a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I miss living in the Bay Area. When I met my wife, we were living in San Francisco, so almost like every day was hoodie weather, and I like love hoodie weather. Up here in Sacramento, that's out of the door about 6 months out of the year. But like today, it never got over 40 at our house, which is a little too
Wow.
cold for me. I could take a little higher than that. This isn't exactly the norm. It was just a cold day, but yeah, I completely relate to what you're saying. When I was little, I would always like right now, like starting like right now, like a week from Christmas, like, oh my gosh, it's like 7 days away, and not sleeping and like, what am I gonna get? And now it's just transitioned like the 180 degrees. Like I love to, you know, give gifts to people and spoil
Yeah.
the people I love. And I'm more like anticipate like, oh, I can't wait to like give them this stuff and to spend time with the family and stuff like that. Priorities definitely a little bit, but the anticipation I still feel is there. A lot of people tell me I'm like a big little kid. I'm just, try to keep people amped up and having a good time. And so, I look forward to being able to spoil them and enjoy it and give to people this time
Yeah.
of year for
That's a good
sure.
way to put it. Yeah. I think I'm more in like, I like, because I've, past few years, obviously, because when you're a kid, you don't like, maybe you get your parents something at like the holiday boutique or something at school, but you don't really like pay attention to what you get like other people, and now it's
Yeah.
like, I like seeing their faces when they open a gift of mine rather than because like I don't need
Mhm.
anything. My room is like full. I'm trying to struggle to put stuff in places and
Yeah.
so I don't need anything. I have everything I need. But I do like I think I've adapted the giving people part of it. Giving to
Yeah.
people
I
part of it.
mean, yeah, and I just think, like kind of similar to you. Like if I need something, I buy it for myself. And it's usually not very big. It's not like, what do you need? Oh, I want a USB adapter so I could plug in my mic and my mouse and my keyboard at the same time. Like I'm not gonna ask for that. I'm just gonna buy it. It's like $10 on Amazon. Yeah, stuff like that where I'm just like, I don't need anything. Like, I could go and never get anything for Christmas now and I'd be completely
Yeah,
happy. And
me too.
so
And I
just
hate
being able
asking
to,
for stuff. Yeah, I hate
oh
asking
yeah,
for
like
stuff.
my wife asked me what I wanted this year and I think I gave her like two things. I'm just like, I'm sorry. Like I hate thinking about what I need and what other people can give me. So like I never have a list anymore. So I'm just like, sorry. Like I hope you think of something
Yeah.
cool, I guess.
Yeah, I get really uneasy when I like be because my family they always go right after Thanksgiving. My mom is the wild one that goes Black Friday shopping, 3 a.m. Black Friday. She's in Kohl's or something starting at 3 a.m. And like my grandma goes with her, and my aunt, and like they're wild. They're like OG, when it comes to Black
Your
Friday shopping.
your mom and grandma are like the ladies we read about that like ran over another shopper to get like the half price Keurig.
Pretty much. That's it. And like it's funny because she's like, okay, I'm home, and it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like, really? I'm like just waking up. But yeah, I hate asking for lists. But yeah, no, I'm excited though. I think the holiday season this year is gonna be awesome. This year flew by. And maybe we'll do an episode. We don't know yet, by the way, if we're gonna do anything before New Year's. Is there any baseball tradition though that you've kind of because on the topic of traditions, we were thinking about like because we always do kind of a fun topic on the shutdown inning, and we wanted to kind of tie it into traditions in baseball. Is there any like baseball tradition that you have? It doesn't even have to be like Christmas or holiday based, but anything that you do that's maybe different from what anybody else does in terms of tradition.
As far as me personally, I mean, for a long, long time, like I would never leave a game early. I
Yeah,
don't know if that counts as a tradition, but
I'd
like
say
I would,
so.
I would stay till the end of every game. Probably the first game I ever remember leaving early, it was me, my dad, my sister, her friend, and my grandpa. And my grandpa was like your traditional tough old man. He wore a flannel. That was all he wore to a night game at Candlestick. And it was a September game. I remember I was maybe 9 or 10. September night game against the Dodgers. They were chanting a 4-letter word and then LA, but it wasn't beat back then. And yeah, it just got very cold. And we were like in the top, I think we were 3 rows from the top of the upper deck behind home plate. And my grandpa was just freezing his ass off in just a flannel shirt. And my dad looked over, like I wasn't warm either, but I was like wearing 3 or 4 layers and a parka and long johns. And my dad looked over and he was just like, "Hey, Tyler, I think your grandpa's struggling a little bit. Would you be okay if we left? He's worried he'll disappoint you if he asks to leave." And I was like, "Can we listen to the game on the way home?" And I was like, and he was like, "Yeah, of course." He's like, "But you need to suggest going home so your grandpa doesn't feel bad." And so I was like, okay, as long as we can listen to the rest of the game on the way home. And so like I leaned over and was like, "Hey grandpa, it's a little cold. Can we go home?" And he's like, "Oh, sure, that's fine." Um but yeah, so for the longest time, like I never left a game early. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've also, not personal, but I've gotten to see some awesome traditions just in baseball. I've sang Sweet Caroline on the Green Monster at
So
Fenway
awesome.
Park. I've sat in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium during roll call. So, and then, a personal one for me is, singing "I Left My Heart in San Francisco" after a Giants win at home. I sing that every night when my wife and I usually trade off, but if I put Hunter to bed, the last song I sing to him at night is "I Left My Heart in San Francisco." So
If
that's
they
it.
win or like if they lose or like both.
When I'm putting him to bed, I always sing to him. But at the ballpark, if the Giants win, they play "I Left My Heart in San
Yeah,
Francisco" when the game ends. So that's one that I always loved it before I had my son, but now that it just became because he was born in San Francisco, we lived there, and I knew we were going to be moving shortly after he was born. So that's why I kind of had chosen that as the song I always sing to him. And now it kind of ties into the Giants too. So I'm looking forward to maybe like the first time I take him to a game and the Giants win and we're leaving and he's like, "Wait, like that's the song you sing to me."
that's awesome. Yeah, those are some cool traditions. That song actually like now it means something completely different. Now it means usually whenever I hear it, it's like, okay, I got to turn in my story.
Got to
So
turn the story in.
it's like it's not as delightful as it was, and it's like you got to turn in the story, and you got to like get downstairs quick.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that song means. But no, that's cool. I guess some traditions that I have in terms of baseball. The one that came to mind was like a fantasy baseball draft. Like I've done fantasy for a long time now. Um, I've been bounced around in different leagues, but the one that stays constant is ever since my freshman year of high school, buddies of mine, we
So
would
for the
go.
last 3 years.
Exactly. It's a little more than that, but we would all come over to my house and play MLB The Show, eat pizza, and then draft. And we'd have the conversations of who gets first pick. So that's been a fun, and that usually happens like right before opening day, the week before opening day usually. Um I don't know, I feel like drafting a fantasy team in spring training or before spring training is troublesome because like if a guy has a season ending injury, and I don't know. But we try to do it
Yeah.
as close to opening day as possible. That's the one that definitely comes to mind. And in terms of like favorite baseball tradition, that I admire, it's kind of, you mentioned Sweet Caroline, which is a cool Boston thing, but the seventh inning stretch, it's still a magical thing, I think, for a lot of people. To hear that song in the ballpark, to get up out of their seat,
Definitely.
to dance, to sing. So I think that's one of the cool baseball traditions. And as you know, this winter, and we're going to do some more coverage on it soon, the Hall of Fame is one of my favorite traditions too. And talking
Yeah.
about it every winter and comparing different players and filling out ballots. We're going to have our mock ballots, on Twitter pretty soon. Um, but I always think that's a cool time of year. So those are one tradition that I take part in, the fantasy draft, and then one that I kind of like doing with, or I kind of like to appreciate with the seventh inning stretch and the Hall of Fame. So fun times.
Yeah, seventh inning stretch is a good one, man. I know it's like it happens everywhere, which is, everyone's like, okay, but it's also like part of what makes it great. Like they do it everywhere. And, you know, I don't really go to baseball games alone. I used to for every once in a while, like one a year or something. But it's always good to like, all right, you're at the game with someone. Let's stand up, let's stretch, let's give each other a hug, and let's sing and have a good time. So, gotta love it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's probably going to do it for this episode. We shut it down again, Tyler.
Shut it
Holiday
down.
season. We were
Yeah,
not just shutting it down, but we were shutting it down with Christmas wreaths and reindeer. Does that make sense? No,
yeah.
probably doesn't. But whatever.
But yeah, this is definitely our last episode before Christmas. We'll try to get one in depending on what news happens and what our schedules look like with family between Christmas and New Year's. But wherever you are, whatever you celebrate, I hope you enjoy your holidays. Steven, my man, this has been so fun to get this podcast started with you. Thankful to call you a friend and a partner on this podcast. I hope you and your family have a wonderful holidays, man.
Thank you so much, man. And likewise, this has been great. And hopefully you got to update us on little Hunter and how he's enjoying the holiday season, because I know
Oh,
it's
will
really
do.
cool for
Yeah.
kids his age to experience the magic of Christmas. So enjoy the
Absolutely.
holiday season, listeners. Enjoy the holiday season. Um, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. Go like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Follow us on Twitter at shutdown_inning. And yeah, we're gonna continue to post the link tree.
Yeah. While Elon lets us.
Yeah, so don't worry about that. That might be old news by the time this comes out by a day. But yeah, happy holidays, everybody, and see you soon.
That's what's up.